Hey guys, Alex from Showtime. We got here a brand new 2022 Ferrari F8, and we just wanted to show you some of the procedures that we go through on every vehicle that comes through the shop. So as you can see, we're going to be working on this Ferrari, and we want to take some precautions. So as you can see, we have here a steering wheel cover. We have protection right here on the center console. As you can see, we have a seat cover. And then also on the floor, we lay down plastic to protect the interior of the vehicle so that if there's any grease or dirt on our shoes, it's not going to track into the vehicle. And then our next step is on my tablet here, we actually have a check-in procedure that we go through on inspection. So what that is we're going to go step by step. We start up the vehicle, we check if there's any check engine lights, airbag light, tire pressure monitoring light, anything like that. We document it and check it in before working on the vehicle so that we know for ourselves and for the client if there's any issues beforehand. Okay, so the last part of our check-in procedure is on our list here is the body and wheels. So what this is I'm actually going to go over the whole vehicle, look for any major scratches, dents, dings on both the body paint and on the wheels. So if there were to be a scratch or something, I could take a picture of it. It's documented in our records here to show that this was something that was on the vehicle before we actually started working on it. Alright guys, so our next step that we're going to be doing is putting our plastic protection film on the vehicle. What we do is we're going to put this plastic film on any of the surfaces that we're going to be working on. So this film that we have, it's a plastic, and it's mostly held on by static electricity. So there's not any harsh adhesive that's going to be on the vehicle that'll do any damage in the long run. So what we'll do is we'll put this wherever we're working. The smaller one, we'll do the door edges. We'll do the door sills if we're going to be working near there, just so that anything from our pants, there's no chance of any accidents happening of scratching the paint.
Check it out, guys. So we have Hondo's amazing work here. So here he's prepped the unit. So what we like to do is we prep everything. We dress all the wires. We label every single wire so that we know which sensor is which. This is the CPU for the Radenso, and then this is the CPU for the AL Priority. The other cool thing is there's basically no room in this car, obviously, for any aftermarket. So the way Hondo made it, but we love to mount things. We don't want things just bouncing around or shoved in the dash, especially on such a high-end car, right? So what Hondo came up with, which is pretty freaking amazing, is this custom bracket. So this piece will actually get attached to the car, and then when this is wired, and now, I mean, that thing, I don't want to break it, but I mean, it's hard to remove. But if you need to service it, you can remove the part and then just right back in place. Once he gets it mounted, we'll try to get a camera in there to show you, but it's in a really tight spot. But just to show you the levels that we go to install this, so that it looks as if it could have came with the factory, but it's still serviceable. So if it ever goes to the Ferrari dealer or the car gets shipped, like in this case, this car is getting shipped to another state. They actually sent this car to us from another state, so somebody can still service it without having to reinvent the wheel. We would just walk them through. Everything's labeled, so it makes it really easy whether we service it or another shop services it in another part of the country, another part of the planet. Stay tuned for more updates. Alright, so here Hondo made this amazing bracket. So this is custom bent and it's bolted to the radar antenna using stainless steel hardware. And what we're going to do is he made it so that it picks up a stock bolt. So there's a stock bolt here that's part of the bracket assembly for the bumpers. So the way it's going to work is it's going to bolt to that stock bolt and mount the radar antenna right there so that it has a clear view through the back. So these are the acrylic housings that Hondo actually designed and made for the Ferrari. So we'll show you how these actually go on. We call these canards, so they look like canards on a splitter or on a plane, but they allow us to mount the sensor in a good position where we get a lot of coverage. as opposed to mounting them further back or behind the grill, which limits or restricts the coverage or how well they work. Part of what we do is, so this is actually Perspex, so it's an IR acrylic. We build these actual housing, and this housing slides over the sensor, and then we have a stainless steel set screw which you tighten and secures it in place. So now it still remains serviceable. So if we ever have to get to the sensor, or if we have to do anything, we can literally loosen the set screw, remove it, service the sensor, put it back on, put the set screw back on, you're done. No damage, nothing, no change to the car itself. These are the left and right, and we'll show you those on the car. And then this is our center one. So the center one, we actually build this, if you can see here, it's kind of like, we call it a horseshoe. So it looks like a horseshoe. And what this unit does is it fits in the center one. So it actually encases the center sensor and then also trims it out. And this is also that same IR acrylic. We'll show you a picture once Hondo actually installs them. So just more on the Ferrari F8 project. Just wanted to show you the level of detail that we go into building some of these parts. So we have 3 USBs to mount in the car. One is to update the radar, one is to update the laser, and one is to update the stereo that we put in it. So rather than just stick these to the bottom of the dash or leave them hanging or dangling, we're gonna make up a pod. So what we're gonna do is, this is a prototype. So I cut it in wood first on the laser. I designed it and then cut it on the laser in wood and then assemble it just so that I can see what my tolerances are like and to make sure that I have everything right. So the final version will actually be made out of acrylic. It'll be sanded, polished, it'll be labeled. We'll show you that whole process. But so now the way this is supposed to work is when all this is bolted together, it will hold this all in place. All 3 USBs will look like it's one assembly, and this assembly we're going to mount under the dash, so all you're going to see is the face, and then the face will have what every USB is for. So again, serviceability down the road. The client, or if anybody needs to service the vehicle, just go to the appropriate port, upload the new firmware, and we're back in business. So this is the actual where I designed it. So I actually designed it on this program, and then we cut it on our lasers here. So now what's crazy is because we have such precision, I have to make multiple little pieces because we're working with such a small margin of error, and I want it to be perfect, or as perfect as possible. Usually I make multiple pieces till it's literally dead on. We use a micrometer, so caliper and micrometer, so to check our distances and everything, and then we enter that into here. And if you can see, so I'll show you, this is part of the process, that's the process, that's the process, that's the process. So these are all the steps that we have to take in order to come up with the, wrong one. In order to come up with the final pieces that we need in order to cut them on our laser. So it's quite a few steps. It depends. So it depends how close we get the tolerances, how perfect it is, but I mean it can take 50, 60 steps probably to design a part, something so simple. but the nice thing is that once it's done, it looks like a finished bought part, and it's custom to that vehicle. And now if it ever has to be serviced or anything, there's no guessing, there's no error. It's okay, you plug into the radar port, plug into the laser port, or you plug into the stereo port, especially because this car is going to another state. So we want to make it as serviceable as possible, because if something goes wrong, we want to make it easy for somebody to be able to go in there and service it. So this is that mock-up of the USB pod that I told you. So this was the prototype, basically just to kind of prove that we could do it, and also to figure out some of our gaps and our dimensions. So so this is the final piece. So the new piece obviously has radar, laser, stereo, and then all of it's now made out of acrylic. So this is all 1/8 inch shiny gloss acrylic, and then we have a couple of these are 16th inch acrylic pieces, which are shims that we build, and we'll show you this later. But this piece here lives in here. So what this does is it locks the USB in place, so that when you plug the USB from the front, it doesn't allow you to push it through. And then this one on the side, which is this piece now, which is now lasered, is to center the USB. So it's just a shim to make sure that USB is actually perfectly aligned with the opening, so that we don't have to guess. Everything is kind of perfectly spaced. And then we'll do a little time lapse of me actually assembling it. So we'll glue it all together, sand it, polish it, and it'll be one solid block with all 3 USBs built in.
How on this vehicle we're going an extra step as to not drill any holes, cut any wires. We made this bracket, little C-clip bracket, out of aluminum, and that's going to hold our USBs, which is for our radar, our laser, and our VXI amp for stereo tuning, if it ever has to be done. And our original plan is it's going to get mounted under here, but we don't want to drill any holes, so we made the clip, and this is going to get clipped underneath. Kind of hard to see, but it's just going to slide on, kind of like a money clip. So that'll slide on, lock on there, as you can see, and that is going to sit something just like that. And you'll see pictures of the finished product once it's all done.
All right, so Hondo's working on the mirror. He's actually doing the display over there right now. And then I'm working on the switch pad for him. So this is the actual switch pad. So what we do is we laser, I'll show you, we laser this adapter, which we designed and cut out. And then we attach 5 micro switches, and then we solder each micro switch individually to this cable. And then Hondo will actually solder this into the circuit board for the Radenso display. These 5 buttons will now be these 5 buttons, which we're going to add to the bottom of the mirror. We'll show you that. So we even make this jig, so it's a little template that we put on, so that we can drill the holes precisely where they're supposed to be. And then this piece will actually mount into the mirror itself. So therefore, all you'll see is the five little buttons, and we'll show you that once it's done. Hey guys, more updates on the Ferrari F8 project. So we actually modified this harness. So this harness will allow us to make the system completely plug and play. So you will unplug the radio harness, which looks like this. That will go into the radio, and then the radio harness will plug into here. The nice thing about that is we're not modifying any of the factory wiring. So we are leaving it completely intact. And then what will happen is unplug this, and now we'll have a harness that plugs in into here for signal from the radio, and then a harness that plugs into here, which will be our amplifier wires to the speakers themselves. We'll show you that in a minute. But the nice thing is, if you ever needed to bypass it just to check something, you can literally just put that right back together and the harness is completely bypassed. Now the other option is obviously you can unplug both of these, plug the stock radio right back in, and you'd never know we were there. So again, in the whole trying to keep it that we're not modifying anything on the car, so the car is 100% reversible. No cutting, no modifying of any of the original wiring. So if you ever wanted to, the car could go completely back to stock. You'd never know we were there. So here, Hondo made this amazing bracket. It's actually, so the bracket mounts to original mounting points, and it allows us to mount this VXI 705 right here. All the wiring will be here, and he's making a harness which is going to be purpose built for this car. So it reaches the battery, which is right there, positive and negative, over to the radio where we interface for the signal going in and also the signal going out. And we'll show you in a minute, but there's a bracket that actually goes in here and in essence makes the amp disappear. So even if you drop the glove, you would not be able to see that. So you would remove that bracket, and then there's 4 bolts, and you can drop the amplifier to service it. So this way the car is completely serviceable and it doesn't look like we did anything to it. So some more amazing work from Hondo. So this is the harness that will actually go into the Ferrari. So this is actually the power connector for the VXI amplifier. So as you can see, so he's Tessa taped it. This is actually exterior Tessa tape. All that means is it's really abrasive resistant. So if it's rubbing against anything, we don't have to worry about it getting cut or damaging the wire itself. He also heat shrinked it so you know what every wire is, power, ground. And then it's cut to length. And then here the fuse holder is, again labeled with red so that you know that this is the power. This is the fuse for the actual amplifier. And he terminated the wires which, with these copper 4-gauge ring terminals. We actually use a 20-ton hydraulic crimper for this. We hydraulic crimp it, and then he heat shrinks the ends, and same thing, they're color coded. So now for serviceability down the road, if you need to look for power, look for red. If you need to look for ground, look at the black. And once it's in the car, we'll show you a little bit more about that. So I don't know if you can see here, but that's the VXI that we showed you earlier, mounted on the custom bracket that we built that bolts up to some stock locations. This is the cover plate for the glove box. So it bolts back in, and if you can see, this is our VXI right here, which fits by the hair of its chinny chin chin. But you know, the amp is in there securely mounted, wired, everything, but you would never know. Even if you dropped the glove box, I mean, it'd be hard to tell that that wasn't an original factory part. So just wanted another thing to show you how we do things here at Showtime. and trying to keep this as serviceable as possible, we fabricated or customized a speaker connector. So this one will plug in there so that we don't have to splice into any of the factory wiring. And then what we'll do is we just place heat shrink over the entire connection. We'll heat shrink it, dress the wire, where actually there's a factory grommet here. So the wire will now go through the stock grommet and come into the speaker cavity. So that'll allow us to just plug it right into the speaker. The nice thing is if they ever have to service the car, they can remove it, cut the heat shrink and unplug it and remove the speaker to do whatever service they have. And then obviously heat shrink it again, plug it back in, put it right back in the door.
So here we got the connection made. We're gonna run it through the factory hole, run it down the back. And there's a harness behind here that you tuck it in on there. Then you put one zip tie at the back here. And then you'll have enough for your speaker to connect there after you put the speaker adapter. So that'll be just enough. And then we'll finish it off with the factory grommet that was already there. So pop that guy back in. Place. And that looks like factory, like we didn't even touch it.
You're an artist. Yeah. Are you good at it? You're an artist. Yeah. Are you good at it?
All right, hey guys, wanted to give you an update, final update on the Ferrari F8 Spider project. So wanted to show you some of the things we did. So this is the sub-box enclosure that we built for it. It actually houses an Audio Mobile Evo 8-inch, which sounds amazing. I mean, the amount of output out of such a small enclosure, as you can see, it's built to conform to the back wall. It actually bolts to 2 existing bolt holes that hold the cargo net in place. And it is Alcantara suede. It's padded just like the rest of the car. And we even have this aluminum trim down the side, kind of to go with the aluminum around the vents of the car. So again, just to try to tie it in. And the seats still go recline all the way, so you're not losing any usable space basically. I mean, just that small little cubby section, which literally is just for the netting. All right, so this is what we ended up doing for the USBs. So we lasered an acrylic housing, and it houses all the USBs for the different devices. So and they're lasered. So radar, laser, stereo. So this is where you would update the radar, laser defense, or adjust the tune on the stereo itself. As far as the controller for the amplifier or the VXI, we made a custom bracket and mounted it down here beneath the dash. So this way it doesn't take away from the car, but you can still reach it and adjust it. The only time you need it is if you want to switch between tunes or if you want to adjust the bass level output. So this way it's kind of hidden and out of the way and keep with the theme of not disturbing the car or disrupting the car at all. So for the mirror, we did our Radenso mirror mod where we separate the display from the board, and we call it mirror notch. So we make it look like the notch on the iPhone, and we located all the buttons right here. I don't know if you can see this, but we built these buttons. They're lasered, mounted, soldered, and then mounted to the mirror itself. But the nice thing about that, same thing. When you're sitting in the vehicle, you can't even tell it's there. And also, when the unit is off, so if I shut the unit off,
Power off.
give it a second, and it goes away and it looks like nothing ever happened, right? Hit power again, turn the unit back on, there we go. So as far as the fusing for the amplifier, we ran all our power and ground right here to the factory battery. Very easy to service the amplifier in case something goes wrong. And then you just put this back. So for the speakers on this vehicle, we actually added Vocal K2s. So this is the K2 tweeter in a custom pod. The K2 6.5-inch mid-bass driver in a 3D printed pod. And then we also did sound deadener throughout the whole vehicle. So we did the outer skin, inner skin, everything just to make the enclosure a little better. All right, so on the rear of the Ferrari, we actually added the acrylic housings. So we did one acrylic housing that goes the entire length, and there's actually an RX, a TX, and an RX on the rear. The front end, we added 3 sensors as well, RX, 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 and we added what we call these canards. Basically, they look like an extension, and if you look at the shape of the car, it matches some lines that are on the vehicle itself. So same as the carbon fiber, it has a similar profile. And then in the middle, we added a smaller one that mimics this opening. So everything flows with the car and looks like it could have came with the vehicle from the factory. All right, the other thing that we're really proud of on this vehicle is that no wires were harmed in the making of this install. So everything was used with a connector or a plug, an adapter, a bracket, using factory bolts. The nice thing about that is basically if the client ever decides to get rid of the car and wants to return it back to stock, we can literally unplug everything, bolt everything right back in the original equipment, and you'd never know we were there. Obviously that's important for resale value, or if somebody's a purist and they want to return the car back to its original state. I don't know why you would, because now the stereo matches the caliber of the car. So the stereo is loud and clear, and you can hear it over the motor, which is obviously a big motor, right? And then also the car is protected, so there's radar laser defense, which will help you in the driving of the vehicle. All right, just wanted to take a second to thank you, Brian, for allowing us to work on your beautiful machine. It's an honor. We really appreciate the opportunity, and We know you're gonna love it. Can't wait for you to hear it and actually go out and drive it. So from all of us at Showtime Audio, thank you very much.